touchdown passes last year. This one's knocked up. Bowers tips it to himself, and he'll score.
Snaps it anyway. Greer lobs it in the air. Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. It's picked up by Michigan State. Jalen Watts Jackson, and he scores on the last play this year. Here's a blitz, and Klubnik didn't see it coming. He got blasted by Kalen DeLoach, who has the ball and is heading toward the end zone.
What is going on, guys? It is episode 48 of College Football Talk.
It's crazy we're here already.
We are almost to episode 50, guys. It is so good to be here talking college football. We have a Week 10 recap episode today. But as always, hit that subscribe button, guys. Don't want to miss a minute of what we have got stored for the rest of the year. We have recaps, previews, analysis of all the biggest games of the year. Make sure you guys are subscribing on YouTube and on Spotify. But first, more importantly, just watch. But hit subscribe if you haven't already. There's no penalty for it. Just hit subscribe.
It's the best thing you could do.
Yes, it makes us look good, and it should bring a smile to your face. Realistically speaking.
Yeah. Realistically speaking, you need to. Come on.
Yes. So, quick rundown. We got playoff reaction number 2 tonight. Playoff rankings number 2 with reactions. And then we got Alabama game, Georgia game, Texas game, Washington, what we're really going to in-depthly look at. We got a new segment, Hot Seat, where I got a couple questions that's really more of a yes or no or pick one. And then winners and losers of the week. So got a lot of stuff to talk about. We're going to get right into it. We're going to start, though, with the playoff rankings that just popped out as I am going to – there we go. So if you are watching or listening on Spotify, we have the rankings of this week's November 7th, 2023 edition's college football playoff rankings that came out tonight. We're going to go in order from 25 to 1. Excuse me. So Kansas State, North Carolina, 24, Tulane, 23. Right now, they are the only non-FBS team in the top 25, so they would be the New Year's Six front runner. Shout out James Madison, though. They are trying to – they sent a letter or something to the NCAA asking them to remove their bowl transition penalty or whatever you call it, like the transition years gap. They asked them to remove that, saying that they're 9-0, multiple wins over FBS teams, and that they should be – because they're not even eligible for their conference championship game either. So they're asking them to remove that because it is kind of retarded. Excuse me.
It is dumb. Yeah, it is dumb.
Jacksonville State too. They're 7-2.
Yeah.
Why can't they're stuck in the same situation? So just get rid of it, or make it a year. Don't 3 years. This is ridiculous. Not in this day and age when NIL transfer portal is such a thing. Like you can make a quality team within off season. Off season. So just make it a year. Back to the rankings, though. So 23 is Tulane, 22 through 19, Iowa, Arizona, Notre Dame, LSU, Utah, Oklahoma, Kansas at 16, Oklahoma State 15, Missouri 14, Tennessee 13, Oregon State 12, Louisville 11. Right there, though, let me get pause right there at 11. Excuse me. Dylan, anything catch your eye, though, from 11 to 25?
Biggest things I've noticed is UNC jumping back into the top 25 after not really doing anything to get back into the top 25. I think they beat Campbell.
Hey, listen, the fighting Camels, you got to watch out for them.
Also, just Arizona, even though I think they have a worse record than everybody behind them.
6-3 Arizona, but quality wins. Over Oregon State, who's number 12, UCLA, who was not ranked last week.
They dropped out.
So like a quality win there. Like Jed Fish has got this program going in the right direction, and it's really good to see.
Excited to see them in
They
the Big
can
12.
still finish. They have a couple games, winnable games on their schedule, so I like where
Mhm.
they're going. For me, Notre Dame still being ranked is a little weird.
Yeah.
I mean, 7-3 Notre Dame is nothing crazy, especially how like they've played. I don't know. It just feels like
Yeah.
they shouldn't be ranked anymore. USC not being ranked anymore. Remember they started in the top 10.
Yep.
They're not even ranked. LSU only dropped 5 spots. Get it? I mean, it was a tough game. Kansas State stayed in the poll after what happened this weekend is
Texas,
something.
yeah.
Yeah. Only one. There only being one one non-FBS team. Something
Mhm.
feels like it always feels like there should be like more than one, but there just
Well,
isn't.
we would have had Air Force in here if they
But
didn't lose to Army.
hate to see it.
Yep.
I was really hoping
And
they wouldn't.
outside of that, I mean, nobody else has been really. There's
Yeah.
James Madison and Jacksonville State, but like
hmm
they're not being ranked because they can't do anything.
I look at those. Honestly, like I look that Big 12 kind of series right there, 15 through 17.
Mhm.
Like all those teams are right there in it. Oklahoma, not really anymore, but it's just all these. It just shows like the Big 12 how like competitively like there's not
Yeah.
really any separation between anybody, which is awesome to see because it brings parity, keeps everyone on edge. There's no like guarantees,
Yeah.
which I love to see. But 10 through number 1, top 10
Mhm.
this week is Penn State at 10.
Yep.
They come in as I thought. I thought they would drop. Oklahoma dropped out, not as far as I thought they fell to 17, but
Yeah.
to 10, and then Ole Miss snuck up to 9, and then it's Bama, Texas, Oregon, Washington, and then the top 4 stay the same. It is Florida State, Michigan, Georgia, Ohio State.
Yep.
Biggest thing still take away is the committee favors head-to-heads,
Mhm.
as shown with Washington over Oregon, Texas over Bama. They also favor Oregon as the top 1-loss team.
Yeah.
Which is also something to know that even with the 1 loss being to Washington, like they still they like them as the best 1-loss team.
Yeah.
And you could say, well, Bama is also, Bama has been playing light and day better than what we saw them doing against USF. So
Mhm.
they're just continuing to get better. I think they win. They've about put the Georgia Ole Miss game this weekend determines pretty much the outcomes of both divisions.
Yeah.
I gotta think because if Georgia wins, they lock up the East, I
Mhm.
believe, and then if Bama and then if Ole Miss loses by that count, I think Bama would lock up the West because of
Yeah.
because they would already have the
They'd
tiebreakers
have the
over.
tiebreaker.
So Bama, I mean, as bad as of a start from their standards they started with the year, I mean, they're going to
Mhm.
probably roll into Atlanta 1 loss. So
Yeah.
top 4 staying the same, no surprise. I think if Georgia beats Ole Miss this weekend, though, I think they'll hop to 1.
Mhm.
And Penn State, Michigan, really big game. It's like Michigan's only first game of the year. Feels like that's
It matters.
somewhat respectable. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if Penn State beats them, I wonder how far Michigan would drop. I wouldn't see them leaving the top 10, but
I think they follow behind like the 1-loss squad.
yeah. I think if you're Florida State, you're a big Louisville fan. You
Yeah.
need Louisville to be keep winning to keep
Mhm.
your resume looking somewhat good.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Florida State's probably the one team right there out of the 5 that are undefeated left that probably have
Mhm.
outside of the LSU game not much to say.
Yeah.
So they need Louisville to keep winning, and yeah, we'll see what happens next week. A lot of big games this weekend, though. So,
Mhm.
a lot of big
Hey,
games.
you know what I'll say though? The Boston College win is looking better and better every week. They're bowl bound.
They are 6-3. They started 1-3. They are now
Yeah.
5 straight wins to 6-3.
Mhm.
The Duke game is looking less and less good, though, especially now
Yeah.
that they have 3 losses. If North Carolina beats them, that'll be a 4-loss team.
Mhm.
Realistically, I mean, you need LSU to keep winning or try to
Yeah.
get back on right track. But
Yeah,
hey,
LSU is going to get a bounce back game against Florida soon too.
Yeah, well, that's next week. They got who do they have this week? They have.
They probably have an FCS.
Well, they do have
game.
Florida. Never mind. What am I thinking? I'm just thinking of the
Yeah.
Missouri game next week. So they have Florida this week.
They get
But
Florida at home.
is Jaden Daniels playing? Is the question.
I don't know. Let me check.
Because Nussmeier came in. We'll talk about it in a little bit.
Yeah.
Or actually, I mean, we could actually we'll make that a segment.
Mhm.
We'll make this a segue. We're going to drop that down. So Bama takes out LSU 42-28 was the final in Tuscaloosa Saturday night game. Electric atmosphere as always in Bryant Denny. Honestly, it was a shootout from probably the very start.
Yeah.
Both quarterbacks ran the ball efficiently. It was like having two running backs in the backfield. I mean, for Alabama, it literally was because Jalen Milroe was their leading passer, obviously, and their leading rusher. So 42-28, like I said. The big story, though, was the Jaden Daniels injury he took in the fourth quarter. The game was already at 42-28. LSU had thrown a pick like the drive before that really hurt them because they were all right field position, I think. And then it was an unfortunate play, too, because it was just batted up in the air at the line. And then he ended up getting picked.
Yeah.
Tough spot there. And then Daniels takes a huge shot from Dallas Turner. A lot of people thought it was targeting. I didn't think it was targeting, but I
didn't think it was targeting either. I didn't see.
No,
there wasn't a lot of head-to-head on it. It was more.
It got called for roughing the passer, but no targeting, which I'm fine with. Dallas Turner adds that to his list right there. He took out Quinn Ewers last year. Daniels this year. And then Nussmeier came in, who was no slouch. You know, he can throw the ball, but I think the two biggest things is LSU's still can't play defense. And then Alabama's second half adjustments have just saved their season against some of these big teams they've played this year. That's what I took away of it.
No, that's completely fair. I do think if Daniels doesn't go down, maybe there's a slight chance LSU keeps it a little bit closer. I mean, it was a 14-point loss. It's not a horrible loss. But I do think if we could be seeing a little – I think Alabama wins either way here. Yeah. Alabama was just the better team out there.
I mean, Alabama had over 500 yards total offense. They ran the ball for 288 yards. Jalen Milroe rushed for 155 yards on 20 carries. He had 4 touchdowns on the ground. On the ground, he threw for 219. They averaged over 6 yards a carry on the ground. They rushed it for 46 times. 46 times. They had 11 third down completions, 11 of 14, 28 first downs. Just an just total domination from that side of the ball. When we talked about that, I mean, it was going to have to be a shootout for LSU because their defense just was not good enough. And they were going to have to contain Milroe. Vice versa, they were going to have to contain Daniels. Daniels was able to do his thing as well. But they were going to have to contain Milroe at some point. They were not really able to. And Bama just went up and down the field as they wanted to. I mean, even when LSU took the lead, it was a quick strike back. And that's just been the story for LSU all year this year. It's just been defense has been an issue, big issue, and the offense has been the one. Jay Daniels has had to carry the load.
Yeah.
I still think Jay Daniels played exceptionally well for what the circumstances were, and he should still be in the Heisman running, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I don't think he wins now.
He doesn't win. I think Michael Penix's performance he had to helped him a lot, but I still think he should be in New York.
I mean, because right now, who do you think is going to go to New York?
Probably it would be Daniels, Penix, depending on how Bo Nix finishes, him, and probably I still like Ollie Gordon to go, but I don't know if he will.
Yeah.
If Brock Bowers was healthy right now, by the way, he's been practicing. He's been running, like sprinting.
Because I see the top 5 odds right now, right?
Carson Beck, if he has a solid game, he's still right there. I don't think he'll win it, but he could be there.
So the top 5 odds right now are Penix, Nix, Daniels, McCarthy, and then Jordan Travis.
Those
are the top 5 odds favorites.
No. I think if I just like Ollie Gordon. I think he's just been exceptionally well. He had a good day again against Oklahoma. He got banged up though, but he was able to come back in the
Yeah.
game. But as far as like LSU though, I think entering the year, I saw this as a potential issue.
Mhm.
They brought in a lot of transfers, and when you bring in a lot of transfers, you can either work out really well, or
Yeah.
it can be just you just have that ugly, stinky year where nothing just gels right,
Mhm.
and you get what you get right there. Do you think it's a little bit rough what happened? Ollie Gordon, by the way, sidetrack off
Yeah.
topic is I'll let you think about that. 33 carries, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns. Just get him in New York. Ollie Gordon. Especially Oklahoma State goes from getting blown out by South Alabama
Yeah.
to winning the Big 12 championship. They are the second best odds right now. And it's like them in
Yeah,
Texas,
because
and then it's like
they only have one in conference loss.
it's Texas and Oklahoma State with like close odds, and then everybody else
Mhm.
is just far back down.
Yeah, because I think as long as those teams keep winning, nobody else can even break in.
Exactly. So,
And I don't think
but
they play anybody else in the
they
who's
play
like
all the
actually
newcomers. They play UCF, Houston, and Cincinnati, I believe, the rest of the way.
yeah.
So all the
And then I
newcomers.
think Texas plays who?
They
What,
have TCU
Texas
this
Tech?
week, TCU, Texas Tech, and Iowa State.
And so the biggest game they play is Iowa State.
They're at TCU this week. You never know.
I mean, let's be honest with
Listen,
ourselves. I think we do know this year.
until Quinn Ewers comes back, I can't ever guarantee anything.
I don't know. TCU
Just
is 4-5, and they're starting a brand new quarterback.
never know. Maybe it's a spark. I don't know. Oh, but back to the question before we move on. Like,
Yep.
where do you think? Where do they need to fire their DC? We saw USC do it, but does
I mean,
like what's
you're
the
really
next
close
step
to
for
it.
this
I mean,
defense?
you're like. Problem is their defense looked good last year. And
Yeah.
they have recruiting rankings and portal predictions say that they have good athletes on defense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to make that argument right away if like the defensive coordinator is a serious part of recruiting. Like, do you fire him? But at the same time, it's like this is as bad as it gets. Like this is bad.
It'll be definitely something they'll have to
Mhm.
figure out next or going into the off season, but as far as the offense goes, offense is still good.
Offense is great.
Regardless of who plays quarterback this week, they should win.
Hmm.
So their schedule should be defined down the stretch. They have Florida, Texas A&M,
Yeah.
and
Georgia State.
Georgia State. So they'll win outright. They'll win the next
Yeah.
three. So no,
I do think it's funny that they get a better channel for the Georgia State game than the Florida game. A little bit funny that game got reduced to SEC Network, but Georgia State's going on ESPN too.
nice. All right, we're gonna move on. Oh, actually, you know what? Here, sidetrack because we talked all about LSU right there. Bama.
Yep.
Jalen Milroe has played exceptionally well last pretty much since the second half of the Ole Miss game.
Yeah.
And the second half adjustments have just been outstanding by Alabama. They are outscored, I believe, that between Tennessee, LSU, and Ole Miss.
Mhm.
Second half, I think it's 56-10. So
Yeah.
they're scoring and they're shutting you down.
Mhm.
So Kevin Steele and oh crap, who's their OC? It's Tommy Reese.
Yeah.
They're doing great jobs at just making those adjustments. Those in-game adjustments have just completely been able to be like a weapon, like just an extra tool, like in the arsenal.
Yeah.
That no team has been able to just even compete with them in the second half. It feels like so they are going to be one tough out just because the way they're able to obviously make in-game adjustments
Mhm.
is something that's really helping them out. And if
Yeah.
Jalen Milroe, they're playing now to what Milroe's good. They're playing to his strengths. In the beginning of the year, it wasn't like that. You know what I mean? Like it was
Yeah.
like they were still figuring out who was going to play quarterback and giving Milroe like they weren't playing Milroe to what he's good at. Now they are, and it's helping him out really good.
Mhm.
I still think, though,
Yeah.
if a team's able to keep him contained and force him to beat you with his arm, I still think you can get him that way. You can look at the A&M game. You can look a little bit maybe at the Tennessee game some, but it's just I still think there's a spot right there. But, I mean, no team's been able to do it, so there's no need to think about it. But we're ready to move on.
I do want to bring
ahead.
up one more thing, just so everybody understands the conference standings right now. So Georgia is atop the East at 6-0 in conference, but Missouri and Tennessee are both 3-2. So Georgia wins this week against Ole Miss, they clinch it, and Alabama would also clinch the West with a win because they're 6-0 in conference, but Ole Miss is 5-1.
Yeah, so Ole Miss needs to win.
Yeah.
They need Bama to lose.
Bama just needs to win either Kentucky or Auburn, and they win the conference.
Yeah,
They'll win the division.
Honestly, yeah, they really need them to lose next both of them.
They need to lose both. That's what I'm saying. Alabama wins either one of those games, they clinch the division.
Yeah, I mean they're both road games, and Saban is some reason is like a house of horrors and Jordan Hare.
Yeah.
So maybe old Hugh has something to pull old Miss memories up his sleeve, but
dual quarterback system like he put against Georgia out of nowhere.
Yeah, that dual quarterback crap.
That was awful. He set himself up to lose in that game. I was like, what is this guy doing?
Pick a quarterback. All right, we're moving on though. We got Georgia. We got Missouri. Next up on the tap.
Yep.
I think I wrote something down about this game on my flashcard, but I didn't. Anyway, Georgia 30-21 was the final.
Yep.
I thought Missouri was not really going to be able to compete in this game. I'm going to own that. Missouri, I knew they were really good, but I just thought Georgia, this was a great spot for Georgia to just
let loose
your iron fist and just smash this team.
Yeah.
They did. Old Missouri had a second half lead. It was 13-10, I believe. Yes. 13-10. So they had a second half lead, but at the end of the day, Georgia, couple touchdowns, help them get an 11-point lead in the fourth.
Yeah.
Missouri was able to cut it
to a 3-point at the beginning of the fourth. Yeah.
And then Georgia hit 2 field goals, but the two late interceptions by Brady Cook really pretty much sunk the ship. Shout out to Stackhouse with the huge interception by the big man. His return got pulled back by a phantom block in the back hold, which I still have yet to see, by Smile Munden. And then the pick by, I believe it was Tyke Smith. I could be wrong, but I would have to double check. But I believe it was Tyke Smith that ended up having the game-winning clinch. The biggest thing I wrote down was the red zone, which plagued Missouri last year in this game. It was field goals that really saved Georgia last year, which keep them in it. This year, Missouri could not capitalize again.
Yep.
They went 3 of 3 in the red zone, 14 points. But like right there, 14 points. They only scored one time, 2 field goals. Georgia 5 of 5 in the red zone, 27 points.
Georgia had 9 more minutes of possession too.
9 more minutes. They were even on first downs. Honestly, the first half was about as like a standstill, a defensive standstill as you want to find one. Yeah. I think it was 10-10 going into the half. Like neither team was really doing anything. Missouri jumped out early with a Luther Burden touchdown. Luther Burden, 3 catches for 53 yards and a touchdown. They shut him. Kamari Lassiter was able to. They were able to pretty much shut him down as equivalently. Really take out the big touchdown pass. That was only, really nothing. So they were able to do well, keeping him in check.
Yeah.
Cody Schrader was able to do a really good job of bouncing off, getting that outside zone, getting leverage on the outside. They did a good job that way. He had over 100 yards rushing. Brady Cook really was good, effective. I thought with his legs, he was able to really keep drives going by extending plays and getting first downs with his legs. There was a couple times in the first half where he was getting some chunk plays. But Georgia's defense, he played
really good.
He looked very efficient. But Carson Beck again, if we're looking just at that, Carson Beck, everyone keeps waiting. Every time I watch a show about talking football, they all say when they're waiting, when's Beck going to make the mistake game?
Yeah.
When's he going to have a bad game? All these first-year quarterbacks have had a tough game. Drew Aller, Ohio State. Jalen Milroe, Texas.
Yeah.
Who else? I'm trying to think. Who else was a first-year starter this year?
Shedeur Sanders
Shootout Sanders. He's had a tough one.
Yeah.
They've all had that one little bump in the road, it feels like. But Beck hasn't had one. Even when he's had a slower game, it's still putting up effective numbers. He's not turning the ball over, and he's making the right ways. He's making the right throws, and if he's doesn't see it, he's either tucking it and running or he's throwing it away. And keeps that up. I mean, they don't beat themselves. Georgia does not beat themselves. So if you ever want to beat them, here's the secret. You got to play your best game. You can't make mistakes, and you got to out-physically. You can't play them. If you think you're going to beat them by having them beat themselves, you're not. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So good luck with that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think Carson Beck's a pretty good quarterback. The only problem is I just don't think he puts, like, if you look at his numbers compared to the other guys in the Heisman race, he's just lacking the raw numbers. You know what I mean?
I mean, he's still top 10 in passing yards.
No, yeah, he's still top 10 in passing yards, but, he's behind all of them in total touchdowns. I think he's got more turnovers than most
those
of the
are a
guys
bunch
in
of
the top
junk.
10.
Those were junk time touchdowns, and most of them are junk time picks, though. I mean, but it still counts. It's a pick, but it's a junk time pick.
Yeah.
Carson Beck is. Let's find him on here. He is 37th in passing touchdowns.
Yeah.
But if you look at the teams at the top, though, what does USC, LSU, Washington, Colorado all have in common?
Great offenses.
Great offenses and what?
Bad defenses.
There it is. Poor defense. The only outlier on that one is Oregon, because Oregon has a very good defense.
Yeah.
Their offense is outstanding. But they're asking Beck to do what they're not asking him to do anything crazy. They're asking him to do what he needs to do. And he just keeps on elevating, and they keep getting better and better. Their start number after that Kentucky game, it was just a slow ascent up. Yeah. And here they come. And now it's the stretch now where either it's either going to make or break your season, because now you got Ole Miss and you got Tennessee. You're either going to clinch the East, or now you can set it up with a do or die game, a SEC East championship game in Knoxville. And oh man, I can't wait. I was supposed to go to this game this upcoming weekend, but things happened. But as far as this game goes, Georgia, I thought, really was able to protect Beck better in the second half. They were not able to. There was just O-line play was not at standard in the first half.
Yeah.
Too many quarterback pressures, too many sacks. Deshaun Edwards got going in the second half. They were able to wear down, I think, Missouri just a tad bit than what Missouri wanted. The crowd needs to be better. The crowd wasn't as effective as I thought it was, but they'll be ready to roll next weekend or this upcoming weekend. But if you're Missouri, Missouri's a great ball club. I think they're a really good team. I think Luther Burden's questionable going into this week, but other than that, they should keep Tennessee on edge. But a solid ball club for sure. But listen, if you're Georgia, you're 9-0. Now you got everything still ahead of you. The train just keeps on moving. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right. We're going to move on.
I think you're right, yeah. Just because I don't think we're doing this segment on Florida State or the ACC at all, I do want to let everybody know Florida State did clinch the ACC title game. They will play no matter what. However, I don't think anybody knows it. It's actually completely wide open who could be the other team. Louisville has one loss, but there are 6 teams with 2 in-conference losses.
It feels like FSU is going to just become like the Clemson game, where they're just going to – whoever plays Florida State's just going to get waxed.
Yeah. I think there's the craziest thing. I think there's a very good chance it ends up being Georgia Tech or Boston College.
That'd be so funny.
And
So
just because they have the easiest schedule, Louisville still has to, Louisville has like a more difficult schedule.
mm-hmm.
They have to play Virginia and they have to go to Miami.
Yeah.
So I think Georgia Tech gets somewhat. Let me just double check it because they're number 2 or number 3 right now. Yeah, they get to go to Clemson and then they get Syracuse. So theirs isn't easy either, but I think Georgia Tech actually is going to end up being the team Florida State faces.
There we go. All right, we're going to move on, though. Texas survives Kansas State, which game
Yes.
I thought was not going to be competitive at all after looking at scoreboard. Texas jumped out to a 17-0 lead.
Yep.
It was like, uh-oh, all horns, hook 'em.
Mhm.
And I was at the Florida-Arkansas game this weekend. That's why my sunburn is bad on my face. And they would show the score. They were showing the score updates, and they showed it was 17-0. There was a clip of Jonathan Brooks scoring, and I was like, oh, man, look at the Longhorns. And I believe it was like the late third, they showed an update.
Yeah.
And it was like 20-17. I'm like, whoa, look at the Wildcats, they're back. Well, that's because they outscored them.
Mm-hmm. So
16-3 in the fourth, and clawed all the way back. They missed a field goal with like a minute and 45 seconds left. Got the ball back, got back in field goal range to get it to overtime.
Yeah.
And then there were some field goal issues going on. So they elected to not kick a chip shot field goal, would have sent it to double OT, and ended up being a bad, just unfortunate play where Will Heller got sacked. Texas survives in overtime.
Yeah.
Biggest thing for me is that Texas shows me that even as Texas feels like the big dog, there's this conference is wide open still.
Yeah.
There's not a clear-cut favorite. Any game is going to be like I think I said when we were talking about the rankings, like the parity in this conference is going to cannibalize itself. I can just feel it already. Because Texas was a loss right there away from saying, we'll see you next year playoffs, because they weren't going to do anything after that. You can't blow a 17-0 lead at home. Kansas State is a great program, but you can't blow one at lead and then expect to do anything else. So that's what I took away.
Yeah, no, that's completely fair. I mean, look, Texas did go up at 1 point, 27-7. They had a 20-point lead over Kansas State, and then everything kind of fell apart in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
they gave up back-to-back touchdowns within a minute of each other. And they let Kansas State crawl back into this game. Obviously, they ended up winning, so you know what I mean? You got to give Texas the credit for pulling through at the end. But man,
Texas had a 92.9% win probability with a minute and 34 left in the game.
Yeah,
and it went to overtime where Kansas State took a 68% lead in the win probability. Even back third, it was 3rd down and 3. 96.6% win probability when Texas was up 24-7.
Yeah.
In the third quarter with 9 minutes to go. They were up 17 and about lost. Crazy. The Big 12, that's Big 12 football right there.
Yeah.
You want A.D. Mitchell, 8 receptions, 149 yards. He had a huge game. Malik Murphy had a really he had a good game. 248. He did throw 2 picks, touchdown. I feel like Texas was a little bit lackadaisical. They got that big lead and then kind of took their foot off the gas. Will Howard had a really nice day. 3 over 327, 4 touchdowns. Wildcats show no quit. Listen, as a former Big 12 champs, everyone's going to go out and try to knock you down. And, they're not going to make it there this year, but for what they showed, though, they don't quit. You're going to have to beat them for all 4 quarters. You know what I mean? If you think about it, lost in overtime. It took a 61-yarder from Missouri to beat you. And I believe the other game they lost was another heartbreaker. What was it? It was, Oklahoma State, 29-21.
Yeah.
So all of their losses have come by less than 10 points. So just I mean, if you think about it, a couple plays here and there, you're looking at a different story. So, where do you think Texas is right now after that?
I
You got
actually,
TCU coming up.
yep. I
Just
think Texas is in a good spot. I mean, for the most part, they get a. I know anything could happen, but I do think it's a relatively easy game against TCU, who's going to be starting another backup because
yeah,
they've had problems with their other backup. They're not very good this season. They seem out of sync. They don't seem like the same team they were last year. So I think they have a really good game against TCU where they could get guys healthy. Malik Murphy's not very good. Just straight up honest with you, he's serviceable as a backup. He is not a future starter at this program. So I would not be surprised if Arch Manning ends up warming up and playing some of this next game against TCU. Just because I just don't think Malik Murphy he's just not great. I mean, I think Texas is in a really good spot, especially just for their hope to win the Big 12, right? They get to go to TCU, they go to Iowa State, and they get Texas Tech at home, right?
Yeah.
And those are all night games. All three are night games.
Do you still put Texas as your top favorite to win the Big 12?
Yes. They're 5-1. Obviously, all three of their games are against Big 12 teams, but for the remaining Big 12 teams, just looking at schedules, I do think they have one of the easier schedules. Oklahoma still has to play West Virginia.
Mounties.
Oklahoma State does have a relatively easy schedule, but they do have to go to UCF and to Houston. A little bit tougher. Kansas State has to play Baylor, go to Kansas, and then they get Iowa State. So I think of those teams at the top, I do think Texas has one of the easier remaining schedules.
Yeah.
I mean, you get Texas Tech at home, you get to go to TCU when they're as down as they can be, and then you get Iowa State at an 8 p.m. kickoff. For everything, I think they have a pretty good just cruise right into the Big 12 championship against Oklahoma State.
I think Oklahoma State's the team to beat right now in the Big 12. They just keep on finding ways to win.
They can find ways to win, but I mean, when you're Texas, right?
It really. I think if they want to win, though, they need Weavers back. That's my only thing is like Texas can't get where they would need to be without Weavers at this point, I think. And as far as the Arch Manning thing goes, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they give him a little shot. I think it depends on how the game's going too, because I think Murphy's going to be the starter.
No, I think so too.
If they fall behind, let's see.
Don't be surprised.
Maybe
don't
they need a quarterback change.
Yeah, don't be surprised if we end up seeing something about Arch Manning getting playtime.
There we go. Texas football right there. Hook 'em horns. All right. We will go to our final game that we'll really talk about before we hit into the hot seat.
Yep.
It was the Pac-12 game. It was the ABC game of the week. It was Washington. It was USC. The Trojans were outlasted by the Huskies 52-42. It was a all-out track meet pretty much this entire game. 35-28 was the score going into half. That's right, half. Yeah, that's normal. We talk about with –
I will say that, me and Hunter did say on this show, we're looking at the over. What would you know? The over did hit. The over did hit.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, they almost put up 100 points together. I mean, it was I will say, USC's offense really did feel like they put everything on the line in this game.
Yeah.
This was the game they won. Caleb Williams had a night.
He did.
27-35, 312, and 3 touchdowns. I don't think Washington has the greatest defense, but there's been a lot of talk about Caleb Williams not being able to play against top 25 competition. He killed it this night. So, I first want to give respect to USC and Caleb Williams. They did play their asses off in this game, but they came up short when it counted on the most important side of the ball for them.
And that led to a defensive coordinator of certain of theirs being let go. Alex Grinch no longer with the program. I think if you're Oregon, you're a little upset. You're like, why can't we get right with USC's defense? Put it in perspective how USC's defense is always a get right game for teams.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Dylan Johnson, Washington's running back, I believe I saw a stat. He had never had a 100-yard rushing game.
Mm-hmm.
He rushed for 256 yards on four touchdowns.
Yeah.
So if that just says anything about USC's defense, I think it's all we need to know. Michael Penix played a great game. He had one touchdown in the first quarter. He was going out of bounds and just tossed a BB to the back corner of the end zone and a beautiful touchdown. And Washington, which, at one point they were just trading back and forth blows, but then Washington finally got a little separation and ended up winning by 10. Michael Penix, 256 yards, 2 touchdowns. Caleb Williams, like you said, 312, 3 touchdowns. It was an all-out offensive battle. Washington's defense, again, still hasn't really impressed me at all.
Yeah.
They as bad as we trash on USC, at least I do. Mm-hmm. Washington's defense is not much better. Like they are very susceptible to giving up plays, just big numbers through the air, if you want to call it that. I'm going to. Is that an issue going down? It's like Utah, for example, coming up.
Yeah,
we saw what Utah did with USC's defense, and you saw what USC was able to do to Washington's defense. Oregon's done the same thing to Washington's defense.
Yeah.
Does Utah have any success? I think they can.
Well, I do think the problem is for Utah is they have to go to Seattle, though. We
saw Arizona State hung in there.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, it's not even. I think Utah plays a good enough hostile place. Like, I'm looking at strictly like, can that offense? Is there a path where Utah has similar offensively success?
Maybe. Look, they got torched against Oregon, though, right? When it comes to Utah's offense,
but that was coming off the USC game. That just felt like the letdown of a century right there.
And Washington has been on since their defense is obviously pretty bad. They give up 33 points to Stanford.
Yeah. Stanford doesn't score on anybody.
Impressive. Yeah. USC held Stanford to 10. Like, put that in perspective. Washington couldn't do that.
Stanford was a 4th down drop away from possibly winning that game.
Yeah. So, I do think there's a decent chance that Utah will give Washington a scare. But I don't see them winning this football game.
Washington is ranked.
Obviously, we're looking a little bit ahead here, but
Washington ranks 121st in passing yards allowed. Yeah. They give up about almost 7 yards attempt, 10 yards a completion, and yards per game about 270. That's just passing yards allowed.
Yeah.
You're looking at total defense, though. It's pretty similar. They're not very good defensively. That's just what it is. I'm telling you, I think Utah is going to be able to, if Bryson Barnes is able to get right again. They just put up 55. So, who's to say, they ranked 100th in total defense. It's like they're giving up 413 yards a game.
Yeah.
Washington is. So, they're no better. And I just think they're playing with fire a little bit, especially on the defensive side. Their offense is a slip up away against a better team that can take advantage of it. Like Stanford and Arizona State were not able to do it, but I think Utah can. I think Washington State can. Just they're susceptible right now. I think there's a little cracks kind of showing. But listen, they're 9-0 and they're 5th ranked in the country.
Yeah, so there's nothing to be upset for if you're a Washington fan right now. If you're a USC fan, I think you should be ecstatic right now. For several reasons. Obviously, you've wanted Alex Grinch fired since last year. So obviously this is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
But more than anything, to me, this seems like Lincoln Riley is not leaving USC for an NFL job.
No.
If you look at just firing a defensive coordinator is normally a move you would do to save your job.
Yeah.
You normally would not fire your defensive coordinator if you're planning to leave in a couple of weeks, right? So if I'm a USC fan, this is a fantastic outcome because not only is the biggest problem with the coaching staff gone, right?
Mm-hmm.
It tells that the head coach still cares about winning, which
Yeah.
is normally something a guy with the foot out the door does not do. Normally, the guy with the foot out the door is more interested in, who can I bring from this squad to the NFL team?
Right. If
So
you're USC, do you promote within or do you find somebody outside?
I think you see the next 3 games because their interim defensive coordinator right now is their defensive line coach.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see some stuff from him. He has an interesting history. I'll pull it up real quick for you. One sec. I was just reading about him. Sean Nua is their new defensive coordinator for the time being. Obviously, why is everything slowed down? And he's coached at a couple other schools. He was the defensive line coach at Michigan for 19 to 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So he has history coaching decent defenses. So I would be very interested in possibly promoting him, depending on what happens in the next couple days. He was also a Pittsburgh Steeler, just to let you know.
Look at that. Love to see it. Love to see it. But yeah,
No,
I agree with you there. It's almost like a trial run. See what you
exactly,
can do.
yeah.
See what you can do.
He was Jim Harbaugh's defensive line coach at
Gotcha.
Michigan. So he's coached good defenses.
All right. We're gonna move on though to what we like to call this new segment, the the hot seat, where I am going to. I got 4 questionable statements, and Dylan and I will choose which team that we think is the answer.
Yeah.
Pretty much that. All right. Going to pull this up. Yeah, already. Perfect. And we're going to delete that. All right, here we go. Dylan, hot seat question number 1.
Okay.
Which defense is worse, LSU or USC?
That's a good one. This is a great question because depending on what happens this weekend, USC could just jump up because who knows how good this new guy they have is now, right? But I think up as of today, USC's defense is so much worse. I mean, they've made poor offenses look like NFL caliber teams at times this year.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it hasn't been pretty for them. So I would lean USC right now, but this weekend everything could change, and all of a sudden we could be saying, "Hey, look out for USC next year."
Right. I think it's LSU for me.
Okay,
or
that's
not
fair.
LSU. It's not LSU. It's USC. It's USC for me because everyone's gotten right against LSU or USC.
Yeah.
I haven't seen against a Power 5 team outside of Stanford. I mean, just with a capable offense or just a competent offense that USC's able to do anything against. I mean, Utah, Washington, Notre Dame. Who else they play? Oregon. Oregon's this week. Oh, sweet Jesus. If Bo Nix might go for 800 yards.
I mean, we'll see. That's what I mean. Who knows? Maybe
you can't fix that. You can't fix that defense in a week.
Who knows?
Maybe not, but it's just everyone gets right against USC. So
what would be crazy about that though? If USC beat Oregon, they suddenly vault back into the conversation of probably going to the Pac-12 championship.
They're not going to Watson. They're not. It's problem is it's in Autzen, and
because
nobody goes into Autzen. Sorry, nobody walks into Autzen unless you're like Washington. Probably they go in there. Sorry. Hot seat question number 2, Dylan.
Yep.
From out of these 5 teams left in the SEC race that can chance to win it, between Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Missouri. Technically, those are like the 5 teams remaining that are eligible to win, pretty much.
Yeah.
Who is the most trustworthy out of those 5?
UGA.
All right.
Georgia. They're the back-to-back champions. I mean, how can you be more trustworthy than that?
That's true. I will agree. I'll say Georgia.
You're the defending. Not only are you the defending SEC champion, alone atop your division. You're not. It's not even an Alabama situation where you're technically tied and you're winning a tiebreaker.
Yeah.
It is. you were alone atop your division, coming off back-to-back national champions. I think they're easily the most absolutely. Georgia.
I'll agree with Georgia just from the standpoint that they don't beat themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You always have to play. If you're going to ever beat them, you got to play their best game.
Yeah.
And because they're always going to be able to play, even on their B game, B minus, B plus game, like they're still just better across the line of scrimmage on both sides. I think Carson Beck's playing he's just continually to ascend. Bama is right there with me. I think Bama, just from where they started to where they are now, is something that is really something you got to look at. My only difference is that Bama can beat themselves at times. They have shown that, where penalties kill them.
Yeah.
Turnovers, sacks, just stuff like that is what gives me Georgia over Bama. But it's close. These two teams are an inevitable collision course, I think.
We'll see.
Atlanta.
We'll see.
I mean, this Ole Miss Georgia game is going to decide who's going to play in Atlanta.
Yeah. And if Ole Miss pulls the upset, I still think Georgia ends up going back to Atlanta just because I think they still beat Tennessee. But
how fast would that fall? You could see a spot where the worst doomsday scenario for Georgia would be I was just watching Josh Pate about it.
Yeah.
And you talk about the Oklahoma effect, where you're all's looking good.
Yeah.
Then you slip up against, in that case, Kansas. And then Georgia falls to Ole Miss.
Yep.
Turn around. You got to go to, in their case, Oklahoma State. Georgia's case, you got to go to Knoxville.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State just beat them. And now Oklahoma season is, from a national title perspective, over.
Yeah.
I mean, how fast could that fall where you set up now an SEC championship game in Knoxville?
Yeah.
In front of 100,000+ people.
I think that stadium gets up to 104,000. It's going to be sold out too.
Oh, yeah. So
every seat, standing room included.
How the doomsday, that would be the ultimate doomsday. Will it happen? No, because Kirby Smart's the ultimate motivator of any sort of sport.
I mean, he might be one of the, he somehow convinced a bunch of young adults into believing people thought Georgia would go 7-5. He has some black magic, and until we get a Warlock to come in there,
they're number 2 in the. Here's ready. They're number 2 ranked up. They're ranked at 20 or number 2.
Yep.
They don't think you'll get. You guys don't. They say you guys aren't even good. You guys aren't good. They disrespect you.
Yep.
They're talking about how Ole Miss is going to score on you guys. You guys going to sit there and take that, or what are you going to do? So, yeah. Next question. Bigger disappointment this year, Notre Dame or Oklahoma?
That's a fantastic question.
Because that's a great response.
Because I think there's levels to this. I think there's layers to unpack this question. Because I think when you look at it, I think coming into this season, if you just look at it from the preseason expectations, it's Notre Dame flat out. I mean, they came in with the top quarterback transfer in Sam Hartman. They, coming into the Ohio State game, were coming in against, this is the game. They win this game. They're beating Ohio State for the first time since the 1920s. They're on their way, all this stuff, right? And they lose, and then they lose again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think from a preseason perspective, that was just flat out and like a sad way to go. They've lost 3 times now. So I think from the preseason expectations, it's Notre Dame. But I think in this season, every week that we watched it, right, it's got to be Oklahoma. I mean, not only did they, they're clear, they're the number 1 favorite for the Big 12 now, right? They separate themselves. They beat their rival Texas. They're standing alone, and then they throw up on themselves at Kansas. And they turn around and get embarrassed in front of little brother. You know what I mean? In the last Bedlam, too.
Yeah.
So it's I think – so that's what I think. I think preseason expectations is Notre Dame because they go in supposed to be a top 10 team. Year 6, they lose 3 games.
I think it's Notre Dame. Strictly that just how – Sam Hartman just hasn't played to the expectation we thought he was. They got the nice win over USC.
Mhm.
You you've got Duke. You beat Duke, which is a good
Yep.
one at Duke, but you lose to Louisville. You lose to Clemson, who's just staggering.
Mhm.
Try to get to the finish line. Who else they lose to? They lost to crap. Who they? Dylan, look who they lost to.
Notre Dame.
Yeah, they
Notre Dame lost to Ohio State,
That's who
Louisville,
it is. You
and
had
then
Ohio
Clemson. Yeah.
State on the ropes.
Mhm.
You should have beaten Ohio
Yep.
State. You blew.
Mhm.
You lost it with 10 guys on the field.
Yep.
No pun intended there.
Mhm.
You lost to Louisville, and
Yep.
now the Clemson. It's just there was more, like you said. There was just so much more expectation wise with Hartman coming in.
Yep.
That the how the season ended last year was supposed to be on a high. It was on a high, and now it's just you're 7-3.
Where are we at
You're
now?
not eligible for. You're
Mhm.
not eligible for New Year's Six. Hopefully, you finish the rest of the year strong. So, but it's
Yeah.
for OU, it was more of just you really didn't know what you were going to expect. I think that's why I have Notre Dame over them because
Yeah.
who's to say Oklahoma going into the year was going to be where they same place they were last year? You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
their schedule set up nice enough where they are.
Yeah.
But listen, I think they're fine. Just a couple hiccups on the road, but it was Notre Dame.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I just the way Oklahoma collapsed is more disappointing,
Yeah.
but I think that's completely fair.
All right, we're gonna move on to our final
Mhm.
one, and it is who if you're in the better spot right now, Miami, who is 6-3 and just lost. Both teams come off losses. Miami or Florida? I'll start. I'll go. I'm gonna start.
Okay.
I'm going to say it is going to be Miami,
Mhm.
strictly because most of their guys playing are young guns. Like some of the guys are playing
Yeah.
like key spots are freshmen, and a lot of them are really good. And some
Mhm.
of them who aren't playing are going to be playing.
Yeah.
And they're just getting reps. This is a big. I mean, we're like where they were last year, where they are now.
Mhm.
Even with the catastrophe Georgia Tech and this hiccup at NC State and UNC, like they're in a better spot than they were last year. They're going to a
Yeah.
bowl game this year. I think they have the 11th right now. They're ranked the 11th in the recruiting rankings.
Mhm.
They have 10 4-stars already locked down. You could say, well, if Florida's ranked top 3, they're ranked 3rd in the recruiting rankings, but they're in a similar spot. But I just think that as far as the whole program goes and an outlook, I give me Miami over them because A, how the schedule looks going into next year.
Mhm.
B, I trust the coaching staff more with Miami.
Yeah.
And C, I think it's really just there's just their projection, it just feels like they're in a better spot. Florida, as you know, they got to lock down this recruiting class. The lack of coordinatorship and decision making
Mhm.
is hurt them. They're too playing with a bunch of young guys. I mean, their best
Yeah.
receivers are freshmen. So
Yeah.
like there's going to be hiccups in the road by these young
Mhm.
guys, but I don't know. I mean, they have a really bad schedule next year for them, and
Yeah.
tough doesn't get any better, or it doesn't get any easier. But it's gonna be some growing pains with Florida.
Mhm.
That's what I think. Miami.
So I agree. I think Miami. So I think the biggest thing that sits with me is that I don't know how you are, but it absolutely does feel like Billy Napier's job is like the seat is warming up for him.
I still think it's maybe like they're about to turn the burner on.
Yeah. Well, what I mean by that is that if he loses his next 4 games, right, which includes the 3 left this year, and then to start next year with Miami, right?
Yeah.
He loses those 4 games straight because they'll be underdogs in probably all 4 of those games.
Well, they are
Just
playing at home
guessing, I
though.
don't know next year for Miami, but just guessing on Miami will probably be returning a lot of guys, and they'll have, you know what I mean? They did better this year. They'll have more guys. I would just guess Miami would probably be favored by a couple points, maybe 3 or something. But
Mhm.
if if I'm sitting there, I'm going, Miami has a coach who the school has undeniable faith in. They've already made a bowl game. And quite frankly, at this point, all they have to do is somehow hold on to a decent recruiting class.
Mm-hmm. And they will.
And yeah, I think they will too, because I think Cristobal's a good recruiter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with Florida, on the other hand, the problem with them is you have a million different things happening, right? You have not only a young team, but you have people questioning your coaching job, people questioning why haven't you hired an offensive coordinator? You have an incredibly tough schedule to play, where especially with a fan base like my Florida, who expect to win every single year.
Mm-hmm. Or just be competitive.
Yeah, it's just like I think he's in a worse situation. So I think Florida is a much worse situation right now than Miami.
I asked someone that like works with the recruits like in the recruiting area this weekend and at Florida, and I said, just give me your unbiased. This was off the record or everything, but like I just said, like, what's your take? Like, give me an unbiased answer. Like, as far as like, what do you think? Is he the guy?
Yeah.
Like, they said that they think that he needs more time, which I understand.
Yeah, I mean, every coach needs more time, though.
But they said like, but they need to see some sort of improvement going into next week. If it's 7-5, hire an OC, get us 7 wins, and I think you're fine.
And I also think he needs to win games against more rivals too.
Yes, at least be competitive.
Yeah, because like if you you get blown out by Georgia 2 years in a row, right? And you're not even really competitive in either of those
2 years
games.
in a row, it's
Napier specifically. Just ignoring the previous staff, because that's what I think Florida is saying they're trying to do that. Like when you hear people from Florida talking about, oh, well, Billy has to do so much stuff, so we're ignoring what Dan Mullen's last year and Billy Napier's first year, right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, he gets a wash because the previous staff ruined him.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I do think next year, if you have to go to Tennessee, you have to go to Tallahassee, right? If you lose, 3 in a row to Georgia, 3 in a row to Florida State, you lose against Miami, I think it's just like you're gonna have the entire world against you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
just a bad spot for.
It's a tough spot.
That's why I think that job is not a fun. Like if you're a coach, it's a job where you're gonna get paid a lot, but the pressure. There's not a lot of jobs where the pressure is higher.
That's that SEC pressure.
But it's not just SEC pressure. It's an SEC program that expects to win pressure.
Yeah. But
there's not a lot of programs that are like that in this
maybe
country.
They should just re-examine their expectations.
Yeah, because I think Florida is trying to be Georgia when they need to understand that they're more of
Tennessee.
In the SEC, they're more of like at that Auburn level, where not Auburn right now, but Auburn just historically in the SEC, where you're like, every couple of years you're going to compete, you're going to maybe do this. You're not Georgia or Alabama, where you're just going to be dominant for 20 years. That's not this program.
Right.
That's not the coach you have hired right now.
Yeah, no, you're that's not.
Yeah.
Here, I'm just.
But that's also just what you get by being in the SEC too.
It's
a lot harder to beat.
So if you look at their last, if you go back all the way to just 2012.
Yep.
When Will Muschamp was there. Well, let's just say we'll say 2023. So we'll just do starting 2013.
Yep.
2013. You have only 3 seasons where they've reached double-digit wins.
Yeah.
So and only one of those seasons did they finish first in the East. The other season they finished first in the East was in 2020. They went 8-4 that year.
Yep.
So they need to adjust the overall landscape. Florida is not a perennial team right now.
No.
They are not a national title team. They need to reflect it. It's the same thing that Penn State fans do. Miami fans do every year. It's the same thing that USC fans do every year.
Yeah.
I get the hype. You want to be excited for your team, but you need to understand you need to understand where you are as a program before you start Like
That's what
4 to
I think USC and all those teams from the Pac-12 are making a massive mistake. Moving either you're going to make a lot more money, but you're all of a sudden going to go from the ability to run conferences to the ability to be 8-4 and proud of that.
yeah.
And I think it's going to destroy some fan bases being that.
We'll see. It's going to make or break you.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to get out of here with winners and losers of the week here.
Mm-hmm.
My winners of the week, the Week 10 edition. I got Oklahoma State.
Good pick.
Bedlam, finally, you win the final one. Mike Gundy proves his record in Bedlam to 4-15. So nice job there, Mike. Ollie
Yep.
Gordon continues to make his Heisman case with another huge day, even when he got banged up some. But listen, huge win at home. And they keep rolling towards a Big 12 title in sight. And Arkansas, first win for the Piggies in the swamp. They were 0-5 going in.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first game with a new OC. KJ Jefferson played well. But out of all of that, you go into the swamp, which, it's still one of the toughest places to get a win.
Yeah.
And they get a win. They get a great, really good win. Sam Pittman gets a big win that he so desperately needed. I feel like Arkansas was always going to be. Was watching the game live there, and I'm just saying to my buddy, I said, "This is going to be an Arkansas fashion where they're just they're going to lose this. They're going to totally lose this in the most Arkansas way possible."
Yeah.
They didn't. They won, and now here they are. Who are your winners?
So my first winner, I had Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech blew out Virginia, 45-17. First time they've won back-to-back games this season. And more than anything, they're up to 5 wins now, so they need one more win to be bowl eligible.
I was wrong. I thought Virginia was going to get them, but they didn't. So that's on me. We're going to own that.
Killed them. They murdered Virginia. They scored 21 points in the second quarter.
We had a rough week.
Crazy.
We had a rough week in the betting department, but
yeah,
still over 500. That's all that matters. And time to bounce back this upcoming weekend. So,
and then my second winner was UCF football. They finally get the monkey off their shoulder. They win a Big 12 game. Obviously, it was against Cincinnati, a former American Conference opponent. However, they finally get that win in the Big 12. Big time for them. They play Oklahoma State this coming weekend. So, you know what? Maybe they're going to come in loose now. They're not going to have that pressure. Because I don't know if you watched that West Virginia game, but that game was really close until all of a sudden that fourth quarter.
Yeah, I didn't watch that one. I was keeping an eye on it.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of West Virginia, making him my honorable mention, I guess, for winners.
Yeah.
How about the Mountaineers? 6 wins. They get the bowl eligibility. They're 6-3. They are not out of it in the Big 12 title race. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
They got a huge game in Oklahoma this weekend. Listen, I think Garrett Grange is playing just great football. CJ Donaldson's running the heck out of the ball. They got guys on the outside. The defense is playing serviceable enough. They just obliterated BYU this weekend. Beat them by 30. Mm-hmm. And now you get the trip to Norman. You beat them last year. Can they do it again this year?
Yeah.
That'll be the big one. I think they're like 13-point favorites right now. I love Mountaineers in this spot to at least cover.
Yeah.
So, Mountaineers, honorable mention. My losers, though, of the week. Make this short and sweet. UF.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was the last really winnable game of your schedule. Now you got LSU, Missouri, both on the road, and now you get Florida State at home, which is rumored to be – I've heard rumors that it could be a noon game.
Yeah.
Which stinks because I don't like noon games for rivalry games. And And that I don't like the sun hitting me and getting me sunburned. So that's my first loser.
Yeah.
Sam Hartman, just wanted more from you.
Mm-hmm.
No, barely a clip, under 200 yards passing.
Yeah.
No touchdown. It just or none on the air. I think he had one rushing, but just wanted more from you overall this season. Haven't gotten it. So you're my loser. And finally, Alex Grinch. The Grinch is gone. He stole USC defense.
Yeah.
But now his heart is full and unemployed is his next calling. Thank you, Alex, for your loser. Week 10.
So my biggest losers of the week are Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M specifically. Oh, another nail biter loss in the column for Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Oh
There you
my
go,
god!
right?
I mean, it's like the jokes write themselves at this point. I mean,
That's right, they do.
They can't win. They can't win close games. They can't beat Ole Miss for some reason. This is back to back. Is this the third straight time they've lost to Ole Miss?
Probably. I mean, just unfortunate too, because they were
Yeah.
beating them, I think, at one point.
Yep. Yeah, they were at one point. They were
It's like
1 point beating them.
31-27 was
Mhm.
the up. They were up.
Yep.
But hey,
Hey,
who
I mean,
knows?
and then my other loser was Colorado, specifically head coach Deion Sanders demotes your offensive coordinator, your young offensive coordinator, only for you to be able to score 19 points and lose your game.
They covered. Hey, listen, Deion's playing the spread, guys. He's playing chess, not checkers.
I mean, look, this is what I'll say about Colorado now, right? They have 3 games left. They're 4-5. All 3 games, I think they're double-digit underdogs. They play Arizona, Washington State, and then Utah.
Do they get the 2 wins they need?
No.
Okay.
Just being honest with you, I think they sit at 4 wins on the season. Good first year for Deion Sanders at a bad program, but really underachieving after that start.
No. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, there were people really who had them ranked in the top 25 at one point this season. I mean, put that into
That's
perspective.
called recency bias at its finest.
Yeah.
As the Penguins goaltender just got hurt. He's made a glass already, and now he just got hurt. So,
and special mention for Sam Hartman. You do play quarterback pretty badly when you play against Clemson for some reason. You just seem to just underdeliver, but you are a very good-looking man, so I can't put you as a loser of the week because are you ever really losing?
That's how I'll end it. So, those are our winners and losers of the week.
Yep.
Good show. Please
I
make
think it was a pretty good show this week.
Please make sure you guys are subscribing. Remember, we were trying to get to 100 subscribers. So if you know anybody that hasn't been subscribed to the channel
tell them
or
to subscribe.
loves college football, tell them to subscribe. Watch us.
Yeah.
We love new people watching and liking our stuff. Also, listen on Spotify. Subscribe there as well. We will be out Thursday with Week 11 preview. Lots of good games to preview. So can't wait for that. And any final thoughts?
Nope. That's
all right.
No.
Awesome. We're going to get out of here. We'll see you Thursday. Peace out.
See you guys.